Hey everybody, want to make a video today about tritone subs. Now, I think I'm going to make a couple of videos because I want to go real basic today, but this is going to be based off of a question by Barb Kaufman, who asked me if I could talk about tritone substitutions. She'd like to make them a little bit more fluid in her playing so that it sounds more like she's as comfortable in a tritone substitution as she would be in a diatonic pattern, just to add this. And as you get more advanced in your playing, in your jazz playing, this goes for any jazz players, you're going to come across tritone substitutions because in its essence, a tritone substitution increases chromaticism, which is really the bebop language, which a lot of things are based off of. You know, all the modern playing is based off of chromaticism, which is really based in bebop as well. So this whole idea of tritone substitution, very important, but I want to start really basic today, at least in this first video, just to even talk about what it is. So the tritone, in case you didn't know what it is, the tritone is an augmented fourth or diminished fifth away from a given root. So if I have the root of G, then the augmented fourth away from G, the normal four would be C. If I augment it or I sharp it, it'll be C sharp. So if I had a G7, I could substitute a G7 with a C sharp 7 or D flat 7, same chord and harmonic spelling. Now, why can I do that? How does that work? The roots are different. How does it work? Well, because it works because the essence of the dominant chord is going to be in the flat 7 and the 3. And those tritones share the flat 7 and the 3. For instance, in a G7, I've got a B as the third of the G, an F natural as the seventh. Now, if I have a D flat in the root, if I go a D flat, which is a tritone away, the F is the third, and the B is the flat 7. Obviously, it would be C flat if it's a if it's a D flat 7, it'll be a C flat, but a B. These two notes, and they always resolve the same way. So here's the third in the G7. So here's the G. Now here's the third, and there's the 7. And they always resolve this way. The 7 falls to the 3. The third resolves up to the 1. So you get this movement. Now, that's what it sounds like if I have the root of a G. Now, if I substitute and use the tritone, there's my D flat. And now it just chromatically works its way down. So that's how the tritone works, and that's why it works in jazz. Now, how, though, do you get to the point where you feel really comfortable with these and you can put them in your playing and they're as comfortable in your playing, in your improvisation, as diatonic patterns? Well, you need to start in a basic spot, which is, I think that you need to, at least this is what I did. I started with just triads and making sure I knew the pair of triads that go together, because the pairs never change. For example, a G, the tritone away is always D flat, and the reverse is true. If I'm in the key of D flat, or a D flat 7 or whatever, the tritone away is always G, because those pairings always stay the same. So I started by practicing major triads. Now you can do this with minor triads, you could do this with augmented triads, but I started with major triads because I use these tritone subs really two ways. Either as a substitute for the dominant chord, so G7, D flat 7, or I'll use 2-5 tritone subs. So D minor 7, G7, the tritone sub will be A flat minor to D flat. So I'll either use minors, triads, or major triads. But let's just do major triads for right now. So here's a G major triad. Now the tritone sub would be D flat. So if I put those two together, could start it and do any type of inversion and then just go to the next note. So I can mix and match any way I want. For example, and I'm alternating between the two. Let's say I want to start on the 1 of G. Or I'll just do 3 notes. But I want a pattern that's going up. Well, what's the next available note in a D flat triad? The A flat. Now that's second inversion on a D flat triad. So now here's my next note. I'm on the 3rd of the G chord. Now my next note going up in D flat would be the actual D flat. Now I'm on the 5th of the G chord. Now I'm on the 3rd of the D flat. So I'm going to get this sound. Which is a beautiful sound. Now, that's where I started practicing. I started practicing so I knew the pairs to put together. And I went through all the keys, and really there's only 6 keys because the pairs never switch, right? So if you go through one of these, I've just gone through both. So I didn't just do the key of G right then, I did the key of G and D flat because I've got a pair together. So maybe I want to do a pattern like this. This is a great pattern, a little short pattern in the pair. 3, 5, 1, 5. And now I go to the D flat, 3, 1, 5, 3. And then I can resolve it on, let's just say I'm going to resolve it on an E here, which is a 3rd of the E. So if this is my key, and that's my 5 chord, so I'm going like this. I'm sorry, let me try this again. So on a keyboard, that would be this sound. And that's a great pattern. If I do it in different keys. But this is the way I would start. I started by just doing major triads a tritone away. Major triads a tritone away so that I knew what the pairs were. And I would alternate those triads and think about good points of resolution. They're great patterns for technique, but they're also great patterns to stretch your ear. But the tritone sub increases the chromatic bass movement. That's really the idea, to increase the chromatic bass movement so that we're not always moving by fourths. 2, 5, 1, but 2, flat 2, 1 is kind of the idea. So that would be the first step that I would do. I'll come back with another video and talk about 2/5 tritone substitutions. But I hope this is a good place to get started, and I hope it helps.